I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land where we gather, even as we do so electronically. Pay respect to elders past, present and emerging. And CORF acknowledges the important roles of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples within the outdoor recreation community across Queensland and across Australia, and welcome any First Nations people who might be joining us today. Welcome. And we also acknowledge the support that's provided to CORF and the outdoor sector by the Queensland Government and appreciate that support. So welcome to another session of Coffee and Conversation. My name's Dom Courtney. I'm the Executive Officer of CORF, Queensland Outdoor Recreation Federation. Also with us today from CORF staff-wise is Mark Squires, our Partnerships Manager. And I'm not sure if Angela Wright, Nature Play Queensland Program Manager's here and maybe here between Witches. And I think Tim Traherne, our North Queensland Project Officer, is with us today. So welcome, Tim.
Morning.
Tim's been off on another adventure on the Atherton Tablelands recently just to make me jealous. So at it the other day. So welcome, mate.
Thank you.
We've got a few members of CORF's board as well joining us. I think there's a few of these on here today. So Alana Bold, our president, Denise Cox, vice president, Andrew Critter-Boyle, our secretary, Murray Stewart, the treasurer, Ray Buchanan, Ross Barnes and Peter Gould. So welcome to them. And we might also have a couple of CORF's life members like Dave Batt, Donna Little, Kathy Kingsford, Brian Cross and John Wood. So obviously you're all welcome too. And everyone's welcome. Thank you for coming along. As I said earlier, we are making the recordings of these sessions publicly available on our website, but you get the bonus of being able to participate and actually join in the conversation rather than just listen to it. So welcome. We've just sent out an e-news, our monthly e-news this week. And I just want a reminder on the subscriptions on those, and if you feel free to let other people know about those at the e-news, because it is a good way for us to communicate in between these sort of sessions and other ways like our social media. So a little bit of a overview, topics for discussion. There's a fair bit on there today, as there seems to be every week, but it's also want to, as I say every week, if there's other topics that we haven't covered sufficiently, please sing out, pop it in the comments, let us know what we've got. So I've seen a few comments in there already in the comments. Dave Chitty just said he has to leave at 10:30, so no worries, Dave. We'll make the most of the time you've got available. And thank you for joining us from, I'm sure, I think Noel said it was, what, 25 degrees or something in Mackay today. I think Dave Chitty's in the Alpine region of Victoria. It might be a little bit less than 25 degrees, I'm guessing, down in his neck of the woods, or up in the neck of the woods. Yeah, so as we go along, please put some comments in there, but we'll get right into it as we go through. The first thing I just wanted to flag, just as an opportunity, is free training available from TAFE Queensland and also the Active Queenslanders Industry Alliance. This is part of COVID safe operational plans about having worker training, and workers includes volunteers as well as paid workers. So check out the stuff that TAFE's offering right now. There's some free online skill sets for Queensland residents if they're job seekers or workers impacted by COVID-19. There's also financial resilience webinars for small and medium businesses, which are free for eligible businesses. So just check out the eligibility. And AQIA is doing this industry specific training, and that was launched last week. So that's all about specifically assisting recreation, fitness and sport organisations with the return to work and alignment with the requirements under the COVID safe plans. So just wanted to flag that there's some really good opportunities for those trainings there. And that's going to be important as we move forward. Any questions on those or any? I haven't done those trainings yet. I actually need to get in and do some of them. I want to be a guinea pig, but I haven't quite found time yet. So If there's any questions about it, if anyone who has done that training and wanted to comment on it, happy to pause a moment. No one jumping in. That's all right. We'll come back to that one later on, I think, when we talk about implementation. Another opportunity, and this is a fairly big opportunity, but it's one, if you are eligible, you would probably want to jump on this quickly. So the government has these small business adaptation grants. There's a whole lot of words on that screen, but what it's really saying is if you're running a small business and you didn't get funding in the first round of this, they had a round of this that opened up in, I think it was late May, and it was oversubscribed in a matter of days. So if you are eligible, the funding, sorry, I shouldn't, it was also, they've allocated half the funding to Southeast Queensland this time and half the funding to businesses outside of Southeast Queensland. And the important part of that is last time the Southeast Queensland pool evaporated very quickly in a matter of days, but the one didn't.
So, just for a matter of interest, at 10 o'clock yesterday in the Southeast Queensland, it was 100% full, and for regional where I am, at 10 o'clock it was 44%. It had only been going for about a day and a half.
No, I'll just have a look at that website again, because I looked at it and I found it really confusing. I think those stats were for round one. So have a look, because if you scroll down further, it doesn't have the stats for round two yet, as far as I could tell. But
right, okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It completely sold out for SEQ in round one, but it didn't for the regional one. So this time they've pigeonholed $50 million for regional businesses and $50 million for Southeast Queensland businesses. And it's really good what you can spend it on. It's not, you can't just spend it on like paying your work cover invoice or that sort of thing. But have a look at the website. Anyone who's running a small business, I would say basically the government wants to give you money. Please put your hand up. And apparently, I haven't done it myself, but the unfortunately Corf isn't eligible. But I've been told that the process is not terrifically difficult. So have a look at it and please get in. It's government wants to give you 10 grand. I say take it and have a look at the process. But particularly,
we've applied and got it, and or have already. We've hired a PR company and got some marketing development programs underway, and already have made the news in local papers with the PR company. So it's definitely worth getting, and it has to be specific.
Yep.
And you have to be accountable for it, but it's definitely very handy.
Was that round one or round two? It wouldn't have been round two yet. You would have got round one, is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you get it in round one, you can't go again in round two, apparently. So
no, you can't double dip.
Yeah. So, but that's great to hear, Dave. So I think anyone who's running a small business, particularly, I mean, it's Southeast Queensland as well, but in regional Queensland, last time they didn't even use all the money they had allocated. So I would say have a good look at it. It could be, what sort of time did it take to actually apply, Dave? Was it difficult?
We got it through and approved within 3 weeks.
Wow. Okay. So, if you're talking several $1,000s, I think it's worth a bit of time on a computer.
Just be aware that, as you just mentioned, you just can't. It's not cash to spend anyway. You've got to present strategies and plans and how it's going to be used, and then obviously you'll be audited on what you've done and what results you've got.
Yeah. Thanks, Dave. Oh, sorry, I clicked on the next one. I didn't. Yeah. So if there's anyone has any other questions on that, please check it out. It's pretty good as far as what you can get there. Next slide is all about Inside the Outhaus. Just wanted to do a plug for that. It's all about outdoor and experiential educators from right across Australia, sharing, learning and supporting each other. And there's info on that. So it's a weekly webinar on Monday afternoons, but also, and I probably should have mentioned this last week, there's also a SharePoint site that inside the Outhaus have established, and it's got an amazing amount of resources that different people have added on there about all different topics that are relevant to outdoors, and particularly outdoor ed. But there's some really good information on that. So it's certainly worth joining that community and being part of it, of a good group of people who like a chat on a Monday afternoon, but also like sharing resources in between. I actually spoke on there last week on Monday just about what's happening state by state. We gave a bit of an update, each of the peak bodies for the different states. And we also had a guy, an insurance broker from Affinity Insurance Brokers. He spoke about the situation with insurance.
I could give.
Hi, David. Yep, you're here. Good.
Hi, Dom. I'm in the room this morning. Pete's having a morning off from the coffee. Yeah, we had the 4 big states who have been involved with us a lot. Dom, yourself, Jamie from WA, Laurie from New South Wales, and Andrew from Victoria, Outdoors Victoria, joined us in the room to give a state-by-state update. That video is actually on our socials on LinkedIn and Facebook. I'll post the links into the chat room shortly. And it was Paul Davenport from Affinity Insurance Brokers. That video has been edited and will be out this afternoon in our social media streams, talking about COVID-19 and the impact that's having on insurance and across the board. So I think it was a fairly interesting conversation. Tentatively, agenda for next week, we'll have Carol Redford in the room, I think, from Astro Tourism, Western Australia. So that's a very different sort of spin. And hopefully we can, I'll put a bit of pressure on Andrew, who's in the room, I see. I get a bit of a PD report from OEAQ here in Queensland. They've been doing some fun biking and vertical stuff recently. So that's next week.
Lovely. Thanks, David. Yeah, so if anyone wants to join that group, I'd highly encourage it. It's certainly a good community opportunity. Speaking of opportunities, there's a few surveys that are out right now. We featured each of these in our newsletter that went out this week, and Dave Hills from the University of Sunshine Coast, he spoke last week about his PhD project and the survey that's going along with that, which is about the use of tech in outdoor ed. And then also University of Canberra have released a survey which is about the future of outdoor education in Australia. So Dot Foley is the contact there. So they've just released that survey. And still on the theme of education, Bicycle Queensland have released a student survey, which is actually aimed at people enrolled in tertiary education or about to commence studies next year. So that's out there too. So they've just released that. I think theirs is the only one where you have the opportunity to win prizes, including a push bike. So I'm not suggesting you don't do the other two, but theirs is worth a look too if you are eligible. So just wanted to let you know about those opportunities. All right. So this slide I've just put up, we've discussed every week for the last, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 weeks. I'm losing track, but this Queensland Government framework for COVID-safe businesses was actually superseded this week and replaced with the imaginatively named Framework for COVID-safe Business. COVID-safe Business Framework. So, but it is actually a little bit different. So this is with the changeover to stage 3, which is in about 44 minutes, midday today. And the Premier announced it on Tuesday. And this new COVID-safe business framework comes into play today. So this was released on Tuesday. I should actually acknowledge Luke Carman, who's the Acting Principal Development Officer for the Partnerships Office of Sport and Rec. He's actually with us today, so we'll be able to answer a few questions from a government perspective as far as what's going on with COVID. So welcome to Luke as well. Thank you for joining us, Luke. So
morning, everyone.
Hey mate, so yeah, so I just wanted to just flag that previous framework has been replaced by this new one. I think it's actually a lot simpler than the other one, which had had boxes and arrows going all over the place. So probably, I think the big thing is probably still the fact that the COVID safe industry plans continue, and then we can. It also talks about the other ones on the checklist. I don't know if you want to talk to this, Luke, but the thing that I'm hearing and seeing is it seems that what the government has decided that in stage 2, the industry plans have been very effective and they seem to be very confident in those industry plans. So they're very much pushing people into opting into the industry plan. And if you don't opt into an industry plan, it seems that the maximum capacity for an organisation is 50 customers. So I think most organisations in the outdoor sector will have to seriously look at opting into the industry plans if you want to operate, or if you will have to, if you want to operate above 50 people. Luke, does that line up with what you're hearing?
Yeah, so basically in stage 3, you need to align with an industry plan. So effectively, yeah, previously there was an option between going the industry plans or sticking with the roadmap, which was simpler but for less people. For stage 3, we're basically now requiring any official activity to basically have to align with one of the industry plans for the relevant subsector.
Yeah, okay. So whereas before it's been very much, if you opt into this plan, you've got to put up the statement of compliance and amend your operational plan, your business plan accordingly. Now it's pretty much, if you want to do an activity that's covered by an industry plan, you need to opt into the ad industry plan. You need to do it under the industry plan. So that's probably,
yeah,
that's a shift, but I don't think it's a bad thing for us as long as everyone understands what's in the industry plan and how to implement it. So they're probably the key parts of that.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, Doug?
So the confusion that we're having at the moment is with this new stage 3 in relation to indoor facilities. Then does the 4 square metre, obviously we've calculated our facility that technically we could have well over 100 people in the facility, but you're just stating that if we work under this new plan, we can only have 50 anyway. Does that make sense?
So the size of, sorry, Dom, I can take this one. So facility capacities depending, I guess, on the overall size of the facility. So within stage 3, any we're saying for venues or venue spaces up to 200 square metres, you can have 1 person per 2 square metres. So basically, capped at 50 people. For the smaller facilities up to 200 square metres. Beyond that, it's basically 1 person for every 4 square metres. So you need to work out, I guess, the size of your facility. If it's greater than 200 square metres, then you can have more than the 50 people there.
Okay. I think the challenge we do have though is within our facility, which is a climbing centre. We can have we've calculated up to 130 people in the facility, but there's no way we can keep our social distancing. So that's the sort of the quandary at the moment we're trying to work out from a management perspective is technically, yes, we can have the people, but I think this has been designed around people sitting around tables or being able to just stand in an area where we're, interacting closely. And so it's not that straightforward.
Yeah. No. Well, it never is. But I guess what we're saying is that the playing space. So you imagine your rock climbing facility, on the wall would be what we consider the playing space. There's no requirement for physical distancing while you're in the playing space. That's more, I guess, for the surrounding areas. So you mentioned your sitting areas, etc. That's where you need to have that spacing in place. For the playing space, for your example, rock climbing on the wall, or a sport example within the indoor soccer court, for example, where there's no need to have that physical distancing because that's the nature of activity. That's how you play. So it's more around, you know, the supporting areas outside that playing space.
Yeah, and that's a key part of the changes in stage 3 is one of the things that the Chief Health Officer has said is in the sport and rec and fitness world, the physical distancing can be relaxed on what they're calling the field of play. So in our case, it's when engaged in the outdoor activity, we can have physical contact between people. But as soon as you've finished the physical activity, you need to go back to the rules that applied as far as physical distancing and the 1 per 4 square metres where it applies. So that's an important point. It works, it's more clear, I suppose, in a sporting sense where you literally step across a line and you're on a field of play that's defined. In our world, sometimes the field of play is really, I guess, when you get on the mountain bike or when you, I don't know, when you actually start the activity. So it's a little bit harder for us to define it, but maybe we just need to make a conscious decision, right? The activity's on now, we can have contact, and then when it's over, and that might be even when all the gears, you know, you've taken off the harness, that sort of thing, the activity's now over, right? Let's get back to the physical distancing. So that's a key part of what we need to just think about, and a part of that is almost a mental switch, I think, as far as when we're engaged in the activity, it's okay to have the physical contact. And this will apply to things even like in the outdoor ed world, you could do a trust fall with contact between humans and have physical contact. That's okay because you're engaged in the activity. So I think that's a big point that we need to talk about as well. If anyone has any queries on that.
So, Don, what about facilities like ours where we do camp out in tents and so forth? What's that going to be? What's that going to be with how many people per tent, or what's that? Has it changed?
Yeah, no. So in the new world, that the 1 per 4 square metre rule is still in the industry plan. We got a relaxation on that for school kids, school-age children, but for adults, you need to have 1 per 4 square metres. There's no relaxation on adults in that space.
Yeah.
So effectively, you know, you could have your kids could be a higher density in tents even, but it's also up to what you think is appropriate to make sure that you're not not high chance of spreading any COVID-19 that might be around.
So say you've got a 4-man tent, could you have 2 kids in a 4-man tent sleeping head to toe?
I reckon, yeah. I guess it depends on the area of it, but even then for kids, we've got the relaxation on the 4 square metre rule. So yeah,
I'm hearing that.
Yep. So that should be fine. It's just a matter of, you know, I guess it's also I need to think about the airflow and that sort of thing. But a 4-man tent or 4-person tent, generally I'd imagine it isn't a problem at all. So, yeah. Are there any other questions on, we'll get into the actual details in the 2 industry plans, but I just wanted to go through, this is a bit of a change that I wanted to flag with you. And there's a whole lot of information on that website there as far as that framework for COVID safe business is on the government website. Yeah, so just have a look at that. And just have a look at the comments.
So just, if this might be again premature, but we've way back, I mean, it feels like years ago, but when the the Outdoor Rec Council put out their original plan, we based a lot of our original plans around that. And then I've seen this all coming out now, and so we can adapt to this as well. We basically just have to develop our own personal guidelines and attach it to this plan, because obviously this plan is fairly broad, but it doesn't go into obviously specifics of how each company operates. So do we write our own procedures to attach to this plan?
It's not so much. It's actually, I think it's really a misnomer, Dave. The industry plan isn't actually a plan, it's a framework.
Yeah.
that you can build your plan around. You can adapt your workplace health and safety system to incorporate all the control measures that are set out in what we're calling an industry plan. But it's not, you can't just go through it and go, yes, I'm doing, yeah, but it is a framework to say, do all these things, and then you can resume your activities. If you comply with the industry plan, you can resume at greater numbers than than the 50 that it says in the roadmap. So this is, like Luke said before, the key part is government wants everyone to be operating against the industry plan to do these things. Otherwise, you're stuck, I think, at that 50 cap. So I think it's a matter of everyone understanding the industry plans. And as I said, they are literally being updated right now. And one of the reasons I'm a little less prepared this week than I am normally is I was writing this prezzo because I had a couple of emails this morning about the updated industry plans that they wanted feedback on as soon as possible. So I actually did that this morning. So if they get to a slide that isn't actually there, you just have to bear with me. I think I'm all right, but yeah, that feedback is literally happening this morning and getting it back into them and hoping to get the updated plans published ASAP. So the second part of this framework is actually this compliance overview. So that sort of comes to what you just asked, Dave, where it says all businesses, the first one there, the workplace health and safety, all businesses, and I say all organisations, have obligations and responsibilities there. The WorkSafe website is important, and then the voluntary COVID safe checklist. But then you go, it says the next page, next column is checklists are mandatory for restricted businesses. And then the next bit is industry plans. And you can operate under an industry plan. And then it talks about the statement of compliance that lines up with that. So I don't think any of our organisations in Corf would be running the COVID safe site specific plan. That would really, it's things like Lang Park, the Australia Zoo, those sort of really big venues. It says the casinos. Yeah, so those sort of organisations actually have a site specific plan that they have to get approved by the Chief Health Officer, whereas the industry plans are quite much broader than those ones. So that's probably the scale of that. I have been told that the Queensland Health Compliance team have been doing quite a few checks, particularly at the stadiums. They've been apparently pretty much at every single game that has been happening at a stadium, and I don't think they're there just to watch the footy. They're checking that everything's going well at those stadiums. So I think we can expect there will be some random inspections happening with Queensland Health Compliance people, which I guess as an industry we should welcome, because it's showing that that they are doing the checks and they're keeping everyone compliant with the system. So over to our industry COVID safe plans. We submitted the outdoor recreation activity provider plan and the outdoor education provider plans in the last few weeks. And so they, as I said, they're not actually about showing that organisations can return to how you operated before COVID, before we even knew the word COVID. They're about what changes are required to operate safely or sufficiently safely in a COVID environment with the right controls. So that's the key part of it. And the plans will all be published on the government website. And they're accessible for anyone, whether you're a member of Corf or not. They're relevant to everyone across the outdoor industry, and that's the way they've been written and designed. So anyone, you also have to display the statement of compliance. If you're undertaking an activity in accordance with the industry plan, you've got to print, sign and display that for each COVID safe plan that you've opted into too. So that's the other thing in the plans. There is the ability where you could have to comply to 2 or 3 different industry plans if you're running different elements of your business. So that could be something like if you're running, I use the example of a gym, they've got a fitness industry plan, They could also have a cafe on site, and they could have a child minding or creche system. So if the industry plan doesn't have specific elements on some of it, then you need to opt into the other industry plan. It says that in the plan, but it's worth just remembering that you could actually have to opt into 2 or 3 of them to run it. So just wanted to flag that statement of compliance. You don't have to send your plan in, you just have to download that, sign it, and date it and display it. You do have to have your operational plan available for if you get a compliance check, your operational plan with the COVID-19 controls needs to be available for inspection. So that could be electronically, but it needs to be available if you do have a compliance check, because they've got to be able to compare what they're seeing to the system that you've put in place that you know complies with the industry plan. Did you want to comment on any of that, Luke, or I hope I'm not getting it wrong, mate?
No, it's a good summary. Yep.
Thank you. This is the outdoor rec activity provider plan. That's approved. Like I said, it's literally being updated probably as we speak. Most of the changes are literally to cover off on the updates that were announced this week, including the events stuff. So in the roadmap, I'm sure everyone's devoured that, there's a section about what you need to do if you're running an event. Now, our industry plan specifically includes outdoor event organisers. So what we've done is, and we've been told if the industry plan covers event organisers for our sector, then the plan needs to be specific about how that's going to work for those event organisers. So our updated industry plan will include a section on events, and it'll include the stuff about what you need to do on the different capacity of the event. So in the roadmap, I think it's up to 500 people you need to do a specific event checklist, which I believe was going to be published today. If it's 500 to 10,000 people, I think it is, you need to have an event plan filled out, which is a separate system. And over 10,000, you've got to go and get your event, the event plan 500 to 10,000 needs to be approved by your regional public health unit. And if you go above 10,000 participants, which I'm not sure too many of us are planning on doing that, but you do have to get your event plan approved by the Chief Health Officer. So that'll be things like the Gold Coast Marathon, the Noosa Triathlon, the Corfu Awards dinner. That's probably the other biggest one that I can think of that'll go over 10,000 people. But yeah, those ones actually need a plan approved by the Chief Health Officer. So in our world, really, it's probably the lower end of the scale. And there'll be some events that are between 500 and 10,000. For instance, Scouts could have a jamboree, or the guides could have a large gathering statewide. So you would need to consider engaging with your public health, local public health unit in the area where the event's being held. So that's in the plan as well, to show that outdoor events are covered in this industry plan. Luke, did you want to say anything more on the activity provider plan, or any comments on that? If anyone has any questions.
No, look, yeah, just obviously, Dom, yourself, and the Sport and Rec's been working pretty close with Queensland Health on getting this huge body of work done. So firstly, thank you. And as Dom mentioned, we're working feverishly to try and get all these documents updated on the website for 12 p.m. Give or take. But it's certainly something that we recognise outdoor rec is sort of a much different beast to the typical sport, and I guess trying to come up with all the parameters or a framework, as Dom said, to cover the wider parameters of the activities that you guys provide has been a real challenge. But I think hopefully the stage 3 should make it, provide a little more clarity and hopefully in the end easier for everyone to get back to activities.
Yep. Thanks, Luke. And that, I guess, brings us along to the outdoor education provider plan. I've just noticed in the comments, Paul corrected me, the ACT, the University of Canberra survey does have two $50 chances to win. So there you go, there's another incentive to go back to there. Belinda has mentioned in the chat the concern is sleeping arrangements, and the outdoor education provider plan isn't on the Queensland Government website, and that's right, Belinda. So what happened with the outdoor, this is the outdoor education providers COVID safe plan, the industry plan. It was only approved late on Friday, and it didn't get on the website before we had to start making the changes to update it for stage 3. So it hasn't actually gone on the government website, which is unfortunate. So there was, I need to put my hand up. I sent the version that I was sent on Friday night. I sent that out and we published that on the CORF website, but hadn't realised that it needed to have some changes made to represent the conditions that the Chief Health Officer put on it. And the Chief Health Officer, we had asked for relaxations on the 4 square metre rule for accommodation of school-aged children, and that physical distancing be modified for school-aged children, and that physical distancing that would be required in the outdoor rec activity plan be relaxed for outdoor ed providers with school-aged children. Those were all approved, but what wasn't approved was that groups would be allowed to exceed the limit of 100 people if the kids and teachers came from the same school. So the version that we published on our website for a few days had that in there because that was what we requested, and that version was sent back to us, but it didn't have the change that the Chief Health Officer specified. No, group sizes are capped at 100, even if they come from the same school. So by the time we got that document updated, we were already at the point of stage 3 and needing to update the entire thing for the changes. So that's why it hasn't been published. So the other question Belinda had was the biggest concern, sleeping arrangements. So in the plan that is approved, it specifically allows a relaxation on the 4 square metres for children in accommodation, and accommodation in that plan is defined as meaning sleeping arrangements, dining and bathroom facilities. So the 4 square metre rule is relaxed in that plan, but what isn't relaxed is the group size limit of 100 people per group, but you can have multiple groups of 100 at your centre, or of up to 100 at your centre. So I think the confusions come in because we sent out the wrong version, because I didn't realise that hadn't been changed in the version that was sent to us. So I do apologise for that. But also in the plan, it wasn't as clear that the 4 square metres is relaxed for dining in an outdoor ed setting. So in the updated version, we've put in new wording to make it as crystal clear as possible that 4 square metre rule does not apply to school-aged children in sleeping arrangements, dining and bathroom facilities. So that's the biggest change that we've got in there, but it still has the group size of 100. So my take on it is the fact that we got the relaxation on the 4 square metres, we weren't going to also get the relaxation on the group sizes of bigger than 100. And from what I've been told by just about everyone in all these calls and previously, the relaxation on the 4 square metres for kids in accommodation and dining is much more important to us as an industry for outdoor providers, outdoor ed providers, than the group size of 100. Does anyone am I correct in that statement? I just want to do a sanity check on that in case I got that wrong. Does anyone have a comment? So
Dom, are these there to be downloaded now?
No, they should be shortly. The updated versions, that's, as Luke said, the plan was to have them there by midday, so they've still got 18 minutes, but they might be a little bit after that. So,
so we can spend the weekend working on them then. they should be there today sometime.
I think so. Luke, do you know on that one?
Fingers crossed. Yeah, it's working its way through the channels. That's all I can say. So, yeah, we're aiming for that 12 p.m. I was working on fact sheets this morning, so we're all working as hard as we can, and yeah, with a bit of luck, 12 is not too far off.
Good on you, Luke.
Yeah, hey, and we'll keep an eye on it, and as soon as we see them being up on that site, we'll send out a bulletin to let everybody know as soon as we can too.
Just keep an eye on my emails today.
Exactly right. Thank you.
Absolutely. And I guess the other one is, let's not break their website, but let's all jump on and have a look at it as soon as it is on there. I don't think we've got quite enough traffic to overload the government website, but I'd imagine there's a few industries across the state, just like us, waiting to see what's in the updated plans too. This is part of the reason it's taken a while, is every industry has had to scramble to update these plans, partly because the announcement was Tuesday and it comes into effect as of 17 minutes time. So everyone's had to scramble, and that's also absolutely hammered the government staff like Luke, but also the Chief Health Officer's staff, because they're just getting inundated with requests about the updates and making sure what they're putting in their updated plan is actually right, because no one wants to get this wrong. That's the last thing we want. So it's been absolutely full on. I wouldn't pretend otherwise, but yeah, it's certainly been a lot of work from a lot of people to get these things updated. I'm just rolling back over to the comments. So Danny said, does this mean students can queue in a dining room as opposed to table service? I believe it does, mate. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I think the dining plan is being updated to include that, because we have crossover into the restaurant plan. So that's my understanding, that is correct. So you'd have to check the updated restaurant and cafe or whatever it is plan, which is referred to in our plan. But I believe that's correct, that people can queue. It doesn't have to be table service, which will make things a lot easier. So Dave asked, can SUP be added to the activities? I thought I had stand-up paddleboarding in there, Dave. If I don't, I'm sorry.
I'm just looking at the aquatic list, and that was the one thing that wasn't on it.
Oh, even the aquatic with craft?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, mate. Well, it doesn't actually need to be there because it says...
Sorry, mate, you need to put in your resignation. It's just unacceptable.
Okay.
Tom,
take over.
Tom, come back.
Bloody Dave just sacked me. It doesn't take much at the moment, Dave.
I can imagine. I can imagine.
Anyway, yeah, it does actually say including, which was a deliberate sneakiness that we didn't make it. These are the only activities. So I don't know if we're going to get it, if we can throw another dot point in there right now, because I think the poor old people at Sport and Rec will shoot me. But I can ask that question in about 15 minutes.
Excuse me, Dom. What plan did you say we need to look for queuing line for dining?
So Noel, in the outdoor ed plan, there's a reference to the other plans that are relevant.
Oh, there is too.
There's a link to, I don't know the full wording of it. It's something like restaurants, cafes, and other hospitality venues or something like that. It's on the approved industry plan. But the thing is, don't go looking at the version that's there right now. You need to look at the version that gets updated for stage 3. That's the critical bit. Because the version, unless they've already updated that one, I don't know. You just want to make sure it's the updated version of that plan for stage 3, because they've relaxed a few things. So I'm just scrolling through the comments. Tanya just said, I think both are important. I'm guessing that's about the 4 square metre relaxation, but also the group size. I'm not sure. So Linda said only have maximum capacity of 100 and only one group at a time at your centre. So that means if you want to have, if you want to have up more than 50, you still need to opt into the plan, Belinda. So the big thing with that is it also gives you the relaxation of the 4 square meters for children. So that's an important element of this plan. So that'll make it easier. So I'm just checking through. If you want to, if you ask me, want to have any questions, just please just unmute yourself and jump in as I'm trying to deal with the chat feature. So Tanya says, it's great that dining accommodation is relaxed, but for schools that are just over 100, it's frustrating. Yep, couldn't agree more. The problem is that's the condition that the Chief Health Officer imposed on it, and that's what we have to live with if we want to operate under that industry plan. That's what we've had. That's what they've come back with. We tried that argument and we didn't get it up. So I'm hoping that if everything goes well over the next month, 6 weeks, whatever, then we might be able to go back and ask for further relaxation. But at the moment, that's the rules that the Chief Health Officer has agreed to, I guess, in return for the relaxation of the 4 square meters for kids. So, and I'll use that example you've got there, Tanya, about one male teacher with a group to supervise students cannot cover both zones for their school. That's exactly right. So, yeah, so, but I'll make that example. What it does effectively, if you go over 100 students, you're always going to need at least 2 teachers, and then you get the issues with different genders and that sort of thing. So Danny's comment there about it's more important to relax social distancing rules, but some schools will be unable to have a camp proceed as it limits the group size. I've made exactly that point too, Danny, but that's the condition that we've got. So I've sort of got to the point of accepting that we have to just work with it, and we'll keep, as I say, we'll keep pushing to try to relax it if we can further. And the 100 includes, yeah, everyone in that group. So Tanya's asked that. Includes centre staff as well as the customers. Emma's said the 4 square metre relaxation is more important than over the 100 for their centre. I'm not sure about why David's crazy. And Emma's asked about the review of that 100. Yep, we'll be pushing for that, Emma. So as I say, next little while.
No.
John O'Hollins has asked, are any activities excluded under stage 3 restrictions for school-aged children?
Question?
Hey, Dom.
Yes, mate.
Yeah, I just want to clarify. You said the 100 includes centre staff, but some centres like ours haven't got staff interacting with the students, say, in programming for more than 2 hours. So they're literally just kitchen serving staff or reception staff. Obviously, it was always my understanding that that does not get included in the 100.
No, mate, no. So it's really the activity delivery staff. So that's your group. So as far as the group at that point, and then the point is you don't want to have the same staff from your centre crossing over between the groups if you're, if they're actually out in the field with them, that sort of thing. You don't want to have the same person on the ropes course looking after 2 different groups, because that's a chance to spread the virus across both groups. So it's all about isolating it, even recognising we have low levels of virus in the community, but it's about keeping it that way. But if you have other staff who are in just about no contact with either group, they wouldn't count in the in those numbers for the 100. So that's sort of that situation. I'm not sure, Jono, if you wanted to speak to your question. I'm not 100% sure what you're asking there, mate, about activities excluded under stage 3 for school-aged children.
Again, we're different. We've got young offenders, small groups, and we need to sort of abide by the square metre rule because we got young people as school-aged as well as adults. So when it comes to activities that we can do. We've got to abide by both rules for adults and rules for school-aged children.
Yeah, if you've got a mix, I guess that's going to be somewhat tricky. So the whole point of the outdoor ed one, the relaxation, was about groups that are predominantly school-aged children. The bit on that is going to be, if as far as activities, like we said earlier, and Luke emphasised, once you get into the actual activities, you can have full contact in just like you would have pre-COVID in the delivery of the activity. But once the activity's over, then you go back to the physical distancing and the 1 per 4 square metres for adults. But if you have to apply that to kids as well, and you can, that's great. It's actually, the first preference is still to apply the 1 per 4 square metres. It's just we've got a relaxation for kids where that's not practical. That's really the relaxation. It's not just because they're kids, don't worry about the 4 square metres. I probably should have made that clearer.
Is it defined by 18 years? Is that children?
Yeah, it actually says school-aged children. So I guess it's probably 18 and up for adults under most worlds. Particularly now, I think the graduation age now is pretty much 18. Yeah. Yep. I'm just still trying to catch up on some of these comments and mindful of time. So Brad's asked about the physical distancing between school-aged children on camp. And as I say, Brad, it's while they're engaged in the activity, then physical distancing is not required. But that's actually the activities of, say, the trust games or the group activities. But in between that, the rest of the time, then it is expected that physical distancing would be done by children as much as possible. So that's sort of the situation. It has it in the plan, probably written in better wording, but that's pretty much it on that one.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Thanks, Dom. And I assume that where possible, the distance between staff and children, i.e. students, still needs to be a little bit of distance where possible.
Yeah, and it specifically says in the updated plan, it talks about situations where you might need to come in to check a harness, and it says that's fine. Come in, you can, don't worry, like as an adult, you don't have to worry about the physical distancing. Come in, check the harness, do it, get out of there, and that's not a problem at all. Even though it does say in the plan we're trying to minimise physical contact, but it specifically uses that as an example, as one that has caused some grief, as far as, you know, well, you don't want to just leave someone to put a harness on themselves and off they go on a flying fox. So yeah, we're trying to make it as practical as possible in the updated plan. Just got another one there. Danny said, are there any special rules around sporting groups travelling together? They're not from one school, but they're from one club and school age. I'm not sure, Danny, on that one. That might cross a couple of these plans, I think. I don't know the sporting plans as well as these ones, obviously. I don't know if you do, Luke, as far as what's in the other plans.
Well, within stage 2, it was, I guess, the onus put on the organisations to come up with sort of travel parameters, so discouraging, you know, carpooling and stuff like that. Within stage 3, that's essentially not as big an issue because obviously we're relaxing. So I guess still maintaining, you know, the general concept of physical distancing, but there's no requirement to you know, prevent carpooling or public transport or anything like that. So yeah. I know within the one school, it's a lot more relaxed than sort of people from different schools playing in a club environment. But yeah, it's still a physical distancing philosophy, I guess.
Okay, thanks, mate. Does that answer that one, Danny?
Not quite. I just added another chat. I sort of made it a bit broader. It's obviously I'm not so interested in them getting here. I meant they're travelling to our site and staying with us, and they're from a sporting club, they're school aged. but they're from different schools.
Oh, sorry. I see what you actually meant is rather than them being from one school, they're all from one club.
Yes.
That's right.
Okay, sorry, mate. I misunderstood. Yeah. So basically, what it says is it's actually about groups of. It's still going to be a group of 100 people maximum. So what we argued before was about if they were all from one school, we asked for a relaxation to have larger groups, but we didn't get that. So it doesn't really matter where they come from. You still can only have a max size of 100. So the same rules apply whether they come from 6 different schools or whatever to your venue as one client group. It doesn't matter, there's just your client, whether they're from the Mighty Maroochydore Swans Rugby Union Club or they're from the Maroochydore State High School. It doesn't matter.
Okay, and obviously if they're school age, no social distancing where unless it's, you know, where possible, and if they're adult age, social distancing.
Yep, social distancing and 1 per 4 square metres if they're adults.
Yep. Not one specific school as it was originally written in the plan.
No, the specific school bit's been dropped out because we didn't get that relaxation.
Perfect.
Great to know. Thank you.
No worries. This is the first time someone said they're happy about that. All right. Dave's asked about, has there been any discussion on potential development of specific activity plans for kayaking, climbing, etc.? Dave, there was talk about that. The problem is, and the state peak organisations were looking at it, but the problem is every time they've virtually got to the point of doing it, these plans have changed. So it's been very much a moving feast. So I think it's certainly a piece of work that might be doable and be able to hand it out as a template. But I've always said, I think every organisation in our sector is actually really good at risk management anyway. So I think you're probably capable enough to do it without a template from your from the peak body for each of those activities. Because the problem is you'll have to blend it together for all your activities anyway. I just noticed Dave Chitty's comment, keep a watch on identified causes in the Melbourne outbreak and watch if the areas are even allowed in Queensland. And they've got a judicial inquiry about their isolation hotels, which will be very scary if there's similar outbreaks happen in our sector. I agree, Dave. Yeah, thank you for that. By my clock, it's just ticked over to midday, so happy stage 3, everyone. That actually means the outdoor ed world can get back to work under the industry plan. I'm sure Luke's just checked and he's probably just hit the publish button on all those plans, but we've been keeping him busy for the last
checking the website to see if they're up to.
Yeah, but yeah, so that we are pretty much at the end of the prezzo anyway, the end of the session. I just like showing that picture of greenness because it's better than words. And we've sort of ripped through our agenda there. So if anyone has any other questions, I'm happy to hang on for a couple of minutes, but yeah, if there's anything else, I would like to say a big thank you to Luke for joining us to give us a bit more clarity and understanding of this stage 3 as it's been developed over the last few days. To get from the announcement on Tuesday to where we've got to today, I think it's an amazing amount of work's gone on behind the scenes. And I've got to say, you know, I've been getting emails from some of the sport and rec staff at some ridiculous o'clock. And it is appreciated the amount of work that's going on behind the scenes. The staff at the Queensland Rec Centres have volunteered or been volunteered to help with implementation. So once we get these plans as well, if you're having dramas with it, there's an email address on the Corf website. It's the Sport and Rec Inquiries email, so you can contact them to help with just even understanding some aspects of that plan. And there's also some consultants who are Corf members who've offered to, if businesses need a hand, that you can contact them to speak to them about engaging those businesses for help with even maybe an audit of your plan if you want to get an external audit to check that you are complying properly. So we just wanted to make that available. For those consultants, it would be at a fee, but I'm sure it's just a matter of speaking to them about what's an arrangement that you can meet with them. But yeah, big thanks again for everyone for joining us. We will, like Mark said, we'll let you know once we know if those plans are approved. We'll put a bulletin out, and yeah, big thanks to everyone for joining us.